Well, welcome. Nice to meet you, Diana. Real pleasure to
Thank
meet
you.
you. Welcome again, Shah and Moslek. You're quite experienced in this. I want to talk about the All Parliamentary report that's recently come out, which Diana, I know you've been very centrally involved in, and it's a very good report. And actually, I think this whole discussion about the BAME community and how important it is to get the right support is a key discussion that I know everyone's very passionate about. Diana, starting with you, firstly, your thoughts about the report and what struck you most about the report?
Well, we decided to do a consultation very soon after the lockdown came into force on the 23rd of March because as well as being special advisor to the All Party Parliamentary Group for BAME Business Owners, I'm also national lead for policy for the Federation of Small Business as well, for BAME policy. And we were beginning to get reports very early on that BAME business owners were struggling to access the government's support measures. So we decided to look into what was going on. And as a result of some initial informal conversations, we decided to do a national consultation of grassroots BAME business owners so we could really hear what was going on on the ground. And as a result of that, the findings are quite stunning. We found when we did the consultation on the 8th of June that 2/3 of BAME business owners were reporting at that time that they were unable to access the government's financial measures for one reason or another. And so what the report does is it chronicles what was going on at a snapshot in time for BAME business owners, and clearly that could have moved on and changed because at the end of May we then the Chancellor came out with the bounce back loan, and during March and April in the first part of May, business owners were trying to access the coronavirus interruption loan scheme via the banks, and that was a huge challenge for BAME business owners. And also that was against the backdrop of Black, Asian and minority ethnic business owners, people being more likely to die if they become infected by the coronavirus or to suffer severe health complications. And there's a lot of anxiety still amongst BAME business owners and in the BAME community more widely as to why that's the case. We're still not 100% sure. But I think one of the key issues that came out very early on was that the guidance that was coming out of the government was not tailored, calibrated to look into, to mitigate against the higher levels of risk that BAME business owners were facing. And we feel and we found that BAME business owners are under more pressure disproportionately to have to go out to work because they tend to be less financially resilient, have less savings, less access to bank loans and investment and so on. So more financially vulnerable, so more under pressure to go to work. And also tend to work in customer-facing sectors like hospitality, where they're very highly represented running businesses in those sectors.
What struck you most from going through this process? Because I know you were talking about it's obviously been quite a moving period of time, having a lot of interviews. What struck you most during this?
I think one of the most interesting things about this exercise was that we did the consultation within weeks of the eruption of the Black Lives Matter movement in America and across the world, and also in the UK, of course. And that a lot of the issues that BAME business owners were bringing to the table were also reflected in some of the kind of issues that were being expressed via the Black Lives Matter movement. So sort of structural inequalities that just get in the way. So if you're running a business and there's, there are disadvantages, there are structural issues like accessing finance and banking services and business support services that are calibrated to meet your needs, then we can see other sectors like in work in health, welfare, housing, where there are sort of structural inequalities, and we can see that's now been exacerbated and playing out as a result of the pandemic. We can see really clearly now that health outcomes, we know health outcomes are affected by disadvantage. And clearly when there's a sort of a killer virus out there, it's more likely to impact on those that are disadvantaged.
I understand that. And out of it, from your point of view, do you believe there's change happening out of this? Do you think this report and the pandemic is creating a momentum for change, and the campaigns going on the other side?
Most definitely. I mean, we've been really pleased with the response to the report. It's a very heartfelt report. There are 75 comments in there from grassroots business owners. It's very important to us that this report provides a platform for grassroots business owners to articulate to policymakers what it's like for them on the ground. And we've been really gratified by the response of policymakers that want to engage with us and talk to us about what needs to happen next to bring change. So I guess for the hospitality industries, it's so much more complex, and we can see how that's playing out at the moment with what's going on in the northern regions, and sort of bitter struggle that started to happen between the local regions and central government as a result.
Thank you. Moslek, your views on this, and Shah? Because obviously you are on that grassroots level that's being affected. How have you felt about it all?
Well, what we've found from many of our members and people that we associate with, some of the businesses like the retail as well that we deal with, that a lot of them were unable to, due to kind of a slight language barrier, as well as the information not being, given out clearly. There was no clear indication of the rules, and there was no clear indication of how to access the finance, which did put some of the people in position where they were unable to access the finance. When a lot of them were able to, the ones that knew exactly, how to deal with, for example, most of the applications were done online, so they weren't able, if they didn't know how to use the internet, they were in a bit of an issue to deal with things like that. There was one person from a landlord's point of view. He sent us a very long letter, and I think Shah read that letter. That was really, really sad that he was unable to get his tenants to pay. He was unable to get access to bank loans. He was unable to carry on with the payment. So up to now, he's still finding it difficult to deal with that issue. So there's a lot of I think the need to make some changes is very important.
Fair enough, Shah. Your thoughts?
Yeah, just reiterating with what Diana and Moslek have said, and the engagement that we've had with a lot of the grassroots businesses, like that person who was a landlord. He's fighting a case for like £12,000 worth of backdated rent because the tenants feel that they don't have to pay their rent. They've got a 6-month window before they get evicted, so they're not paying any rent. Landlord has still got to pay his mortgage, and he's getting no help from banks or the government with regards to those matters. And then we've had other people in terms of the communication style of the government as well, that it's not been very, very clear. We've had people approach us to help them assist trying to apply for these bounce back loans as well. So although the report covers a lot of bases, I think it's not too critical. It's more a case of a snapshot of what we've experienced.
No, in fairness, but that's what struck me. Praise and compliments to you, Diana, on this. It was actually a very well balanced. It wasn't just about these are all the problems. It actually also had a lot of positives in there, didn't it? And I think one of the interesting things that just highlights the impact of the BAME community now, businesses, entrepreneurs on the marketplace in the UK economy, is probably a really important thing to stress, because it is that piece. Sorry, Diana.
Yes, I was going to say, I mean, one of the findings is that during the pandemic, a lot of BAME business owners stepped up and provided added value to their communities. I mean, this goes on in any case, and the BAME business owners tend to often be very closely linked to their communities. They provide work, and they tend to inhabit the whole kind of like high street space and make sure that they don't die and all this sort of thing. But during the pandemic, it was really impressive to see them step up and provide help to the NHS by taxi services, pharmacy services, keeping convenience stores open and this kind of thing, as well as takeaway services. I mean, these services, when you're locked down, I mean, they're a lifeline. And I think we don't value this kind of added value that BAME business owners provide. In fact, BAME business owners are worth 25 billion to the UK economy. So we certainly think that they're worth we think the government, it's worth their while providing better protection for them during this period, and also looking at how they can help them to bounce back after COVID.
That's what, sorry, I interrupted. One of the big things that came from the report is actually one of the things I read from it is obviously the need for greater investment into the AME community and entrepreneurs and businesses. And actually, out of this is making that argument, isn't it, for that financial support too?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the BAME business community is an asset to the UK economy, and we think it's under-recognised, undervalued, and that, you know, the risk is at the moment, without the adequate financial support and health and safety protections, we're putting this very valuable resource at risk. And I mean, when you think about the fact that not only have we got a pandemic where we're facing Brexit, I can't think of a more critical time for the UK government to be looking at how to sort of garner all of its resources so that we can build back better, as the Prime Minister says. So, I mean, we definitely, amongst our recommendations, we want to see better sort of financial provision, better business support. Clearly, there is a need for better health and safety mitigations during this critical time. You know, we'd also like to see a much more integrated approach to growth, to the economy, so that when policies are being formed, that policymakers sit down and think about the impact on the whole economy, so that, you know, this one size fits all and, you know, BAME business owners have to sort of try and fit in, they move away from that.
And are you sensing a change in that narrative?
Well, it's early days. I mean, the report's only been out for a fortnight, but certainly we've had some very productive conversations already, and there's definitely an appetite for change and a recognition that at this critical time we need to build on the assets that we have.
I mean, that's what we are feeling. We're seeing is there is a desire for change and for better to come out of this, which can be a positive. Shah, have you seen the same?
Yeah, I think pretty much we are seeing the similar sort of outcomes. I mean, the businesses have had to adapt, and if they can get any help from the government, I mean, the report gives fantastic recommendations as proposed by Diana for the results of this. And I think going forward, I mean, it is a very uncertain time going forward with the hospitality industry in particular, as well as other sectors, and adaptability and confidence is key as well, in terms of not only in the public but also in the government as well, in terms of what they're delivering and what support measures they've got in place. And so the next 6 months will be very, very critical, I think, for a number of sectors across the industry. So we just have to wait and see.
Moslek, reports?
Yeah, we also have the biggest issue is going to be Brexit, which is going to be in a few months' time. That's going to even make it a lot more difficult. I mean, with the virus spreading at the moment, the way it is spreading everywhere, you know, we're lucky in Western-super-Mare, but I think Bristol's under, you know, a very, you know, not sure when the lockdown's going to happen in Bristol. It seems quite local. Cardiff is already under lockdown. It's been over 2 weeks since it's been on lockdown. And a lot of places and the businesses are kind of uncertain what's going to happen, especially within the hospitality sector. The restaurants have not been able to fully operate. I mean, I've had one restaurant owner pleading if there was any ways I can support. And I actually ended up writing to Diana, even seeing if there was any ways we can support this gentleman. He's based in London. He's got a £70,000 rent. He's based in Canary Wharf. All the offices are closed, so that means all these businesses kind of, all the customers are not coming to the office, so they're not working from London. It's I think bigger cities where, you know, a lot of businesses that their customers are office-based workers are suffering really, really badly. And I think this is going to go on for a few more weeks, and we're going to see a lot more changes. And we need to be able to work out a way of helping these people.
One of the issues here, isn't it? And again, please give me your perspectives. Is it's not all businesses are struggling from those points, a lot of those points. However, one of the things that struck me was the lack of trust, which is understandable, lack of confidence in the system from BAME business owners. How do we bridge that? How is that? What do we need to be done to at least start making inroads? Because that's been a problem now for 30 years, hasn't it? Yeah. It's something that's got to be start corrected. Diana?
Well, most definitely, and I was surprised actually working on the findings after the consultation at the level of lack of trust that was reflected in the answers. And it was everything from lack of trust that if you bother to apply for funding, you'll get anywhere. So what's the point? So they didn't apply. Right the way through to a sort of general unease that you know, the framework of measures didn't look as though they were aimed at BAME business owners, and that you know, there's been a backdrop narrative, unfortunately, over the past year as a result of the Windrush scandal and that sort of thing, that meant that some business owners feel quite anxious about engaging with institutions. A lot of it is perception, because I mean, clearly in the middle of a pandemic, the government is looking to do good, is looking to help. But I mean, if people are anxious, it's the way they feel. So I think that a good way forward, and talking to people like Moslek and Shah, is consultation, is to open up a frank dialogue where it's okay to say that, you know, there's been this anxiety, and look at ways forward so that we can address some of the issues that BAME business owners are facing. Everything from, you know, why is it that we don't know how many BAME business owners have died, because that obviously we know this information isn't being collected, and that it's not what I meant to say, it's not disaggregated data, it's not available in that sort of like complete form, all the way through to just better provision. I mean, Moslek's just been talking about the fact that, you know, if English is just a second language, why are there no other options? I mean, that then feels it doesn't feel very friendly, and I'm sure that is not the intention, but that's the way then that it's perceived by the BAME business community.
I think that's the other piece that came across in your report, is the lack of data is quite surprising.
Astonishing. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. And in fact, I mean, before this report, there was a very authoritative report by the Centre for Research in Ethnic Minority Entrepreneurship. And they actually talk about this at length. And one of their key recommendations is that we need a national system of data collection and monitoring of BAME business owners, enterprises, so we know what's going on. I mean, we can sort of work out that they're contributing 25 billion to the UK economy. So it's surprising that we don't want to know anything else about them.
Well, I think that's what surprised me most, is that figure doesn't seem to exist. I mean, I'd never, because it wouldn't be allowed in most markets.
Sorry, it wouldn't?
It wouldn't be. I mean, in this market, everyone loves to analyze everything, so they know exactly what's happening. So I'm surprised by the lack of clarity, particularly from the sector. That makes sense.
I think it's the one size fits all sort of approach again. It's just sort of calling business business, and sort of like a lack of recognition and understanding that different sectors or different ethnicities will impact on the way that you may do business and on your ability to scale and grow a successful business because there are barriers. But also it's more difficult to see when anything goes wrong. So in the middle of the pandemic, when we could see that BAME people were dying, it was critical, I think, for BAME business owners to be able to see what was happening in this sector, and we're working it out. You know, we're extrapolating that data as we speak because it is still not being systematically collected.
What I did enjoy about the report also, apart from being obviously quite surprised, was actually the positive nature of it. Because actually what it does is highlight not just the need, the importance of entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs in the market, but also the impact it's having in society as well. Because that's the point. The whole thing is changing anyway at speed. And actually, I think that has become a real positive in recent times, hasn't it?
It is, and I mean, as I said, I mean, I was really impressed. So, for instance, I mean, Moslek, you were talking about the charitable work that you do. I mean, you know, virtually every other BAME business owner that I talk to has a story about how they've made a significant contribution during the pandemic. But it's not just during the pandemic; it's all the time.
I agree. Because you have, haven't you, Shah and Moslek? You've been doing great work for the last few years.
Yes, we've tried our best. I mean, it's something that's never been highlighted of some of the work that people do, and now we're trying to kind of highlight a lot of it. I mean, luckily we had, you know, High Sheriff of Bristol decided that, you know, all the people that were connected with us, that were working with us to do food for the NHS, you know, supporting the staff at the NHS, but not only that, supporting people who were isolated, because there was a lot of people who were isolated, especially the elderly who weren't able to go out and able to do shopping. So there was a lot of these people who were putting out messages to say, just give us a ring. We won't even talk about where we dropped off, you know, a takeaway for you or a meal for you or do your shopping for you. And a lot of people have come out and helped in those cases. And the High Sheriff wanted to recognize them, and we given him a list of names. And I think around sort of 80, 90 people were given certificates from the High Sheriff of Bristol to these people. So yes, these people need to be kind of recognized. They need to be kind of, they do a lot of great work, and it encourages others to come forward and talk about their stories of the great works they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Shah?
Yeah, just reiterating what Moslek's been saying. A lot of the BAME businesses, you know, it's not just during COVID. They've always engaged with their community. They've always helped out in their community through.
We want to make sure young talent has a confidence in UK society and business, so it can express itself, don't we? And that's anyway.
Yeah, well, that's about engagement. I think at the end of the day, you know, we're here for the community, and we were really pleasantly surprised at how widespread that level of commitment is from all these BAME businesses, helping the community, helping the NHS, helping food banks, helping the vulnerable, everyone getting involved in all sectors, and none of them want anything in return other than just a goodwill, basically. And I think those guys should be highlighted and recognised as well, which is what we try and do as well.
Absolutely. Moslek?
Yeah, like what Shah said, I think all these, you know, we want to kind of like work with the community, bring in the younger generation. And I think a lot of the younger generation need to be, this is what we would like to do, is trying to integrate and talk about not just working within the hospitality sector, but outside the hospitality sector, or the leading from the hospitality sector to other sectors. So we want to engage with the future generation and work with them, and build a better Britain, basically.
That's very fair. Diana, final words from you.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing about longer term strategies, because although the pandemic has flagged up immediate emergency issues that need to be addressed, like health and safety and access to emergency funding and so on, I think that what it's also flagged up is that we need to, or policymakers need to, build their knowledge detailed knowledge about the BAME business community, the contribution that they make, but also what the vulnerabilities are, so that we don't end up here ever again, where we have BAME business owners saying that they've been disproportionately impacted. We don't know why they're dying. They can't access the funding in disproportionate numbers. So I think that's one thing, is that we build up the body of knowledge, but also that some of the sort of systemic issues that have been kicking around for decades, like access to finance. I mean, we've now reached a point, I think, where business owners are saying, well, why do we have to do business with the banks at all? If banks don't want to lend to us, then why can't we have other financial institutions? And when we have to access funding from the government, we would like the government to be mindful of the fact that historically the banks have not been as supportive, perhaps, as they need to have been. They haven't modernized and recognized the needs of multicultural a business community to the extent that they would have liked. So I think some of these structural issues, this is an opportunity for us to start looking at those.
I mean, that's very fair. That's very fair indeed. Because actually, a lot of these discussions have been going on for now for too long, haven't they? It is time for change, isn't it? Oh, look, it's a great report. Well written, well done, and well done. And look, thank you for your time today. It'd be great to try and obviously make sure we move this discussion forward, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.